So unless you've lived under a rock for the past 2 years, you know that AI has been dominating everything in tech. It's how we are solving problems with ChatGPT, making decisions every day, and how a lot of businesses are looking to drive growth. And today's guest, Esther, is at the forefront of AI and data. She has experience working in the industry across banking partners in different continents. And she'll be sharing tips today on how she's been able to build a successful career in these fields. Welcome to the show, Esther.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So to kind of like go back to the beginning of everything, why did you decide to get into tech?
Okay, so I'll just start from this. Growing up, my childhood experience, all my most of my pictures while growing up as a child, I always hold on to money. So, like having money, like always my feature in my picture. So, like, and when I was in primary level, and like for a question like, what do you want to be in future? I'll be like, I want to be a teacher, but I don't know. I have no idea what that is at that point, but I just know I wanted to be a teacher. Then as I go and I started at my secondary level, I realized that I wanted to do something that people are kind of running away from. Like because when I have female friends and I find out that most of them like shy away from being a science student, everyone wants to like go into the commercial sector or art class. So I'm like, why is every female is running away from this? So that passion has been there. Like I want to do something that every other person like try to pull back from. Yeah, so that's how like I began my career. So I started like out like, okay, I want to study mathematics because this thing people are shying away from it, and it has to do with numbers, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that I want to go ahead and like study anything mathematics then or data at that. Okay, as at my bachelor's degree in Nigeria, there was nothing like data science as a
Field
degree.
of study.
Yeah, so
Mm.
I knew that what was actually close to that was mathematics. So I was like, okay, I'm so comfortable with numbers, and I believe I'll be able to do well. And this is a way I can navigate my career. So I started out with that. Then upon completion, I knew that I wanted to do data. I wanted to do anything that has to do with data. So I started out applying for jobs, and I would say what make me add this passion is I just wanted something like that every other person kind of pull away from. And also, and tech is a big thing, and I know that a lot of people, some people will tell you I don't like coding, I don't like, so I'm like, why are you shying away from that? So since you're shying away from that, I'm going to do it. And so those are like the driving focus. And looking at the world today, everyone is actually the world is evolving around data, the world is evolving around tech. So I knew that this is a big thing, and I would not want to be left out. So that's like all that's kind of sum up my interest and me continually want to focus on this tech career. So that's how I kind of like start out in going out
Yeah,
to pursue tech.
that is really interesting. And one of the things that I was hoping that, you would tie back together was like you always holding money because like there's a joke about like people getting into tech just for money. Again,
Yeah.
if that's why you're getting into tech, I think is a good reason. But was there a tie back to that? Was also liking to hold money a big reason behind your
Yeah, so
passion in
my
tech?
connection with that was because it has to do with figures.
Ah,
Interest with figures, that is what drives me into like so concerned about numbers, and that is what sprung up the mathematics whole thing.
gotcha.
Yeah, so
Got
I
it.
was just like, okay, anything that deals with numbers, anything that deals with figure, I would just like to come up with an insight from that. Like that would be so cool. So that's like kind of what make me so excited about pursuing or starting up a career in that field or in tech. Yeah, and as I go up the ladder and I come like get more advanced and get more exposed to how the world is. So I'm like, oh, tech is where I am and tech is where I
Mm,
belong to, and I
mm.
believe I'll be able to do well. So
So giving like you had experience in a banking experience when you were in Nigeria, and you also interned, at another bank in the US. Was there a correlation there, or was it just that you had gotten one opportunity and gotten comfortable in one industry that you just decided to pursue that same passion in a different industry, in
Uh,
the same industry?
it- I would say it's more or less like growing and like trying to like advance my career. Yeah. So when I started out, I started out with like, okay, I want to work with if either a big four company or a financial institution. So one thing about me is about like getting started early. So I recall, and let me just use the story as an example. One thing that changed my perspective was like I have like there's this scholarship that I almost got when I was in school then, and as a result of that, I went there. I traveled all the way to another state for it. So I did the whole final stage, and but I didn't get it. But while I was over eavesdropping from what other those that also came in for the competition with having their conversation on, they were like they've applied twice, they've applied twice. So I'm like, oh wow, that's so am I not aware of this? So one thing that like changed my perspective about like getting started on time and getting started early. So using that as a bedrock, I believe that so I decided to start up in like a financial institution. I started applying, and I know that this is where I want to be, and correlating that with me working in Amex, and I believe that that was like a way where I can actually continually expand my career in this field. Yeah. Sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So, going back to kind of like the beginning when you were describing, what it was like getting your first job. I know, like, can you talk me through that story, right? What was it like? I know it's always usually like a very competitive process for entry level, because you're competing with a bunch of people who are probably also coming out of college as you were. So what was that like for you?
Okay, so for me, as I said earlier, as I said, after that incident, I had a new perspective about starting early. So while I was like in my NYSC program, like a compulsory a 1 year program you have to do upon graduation back in Nigeria. Yeah, so I realized that now I'm almost getting like graduating or ending the program. I need to start out and start looking forward to where I want to be or where I want to work. I started application, like I started applying even where I was posted to another state, and I even got an opportunity at WHO to stay back, but I was like, no, this is not where I want. This is not the career field I want to find myself in. So I started applying to org- several organizations, like several financial institution, big fours, and I was actually proactive. I got to several stage, and that period it actually makes me to get to know how like interviews are being done, like the behavioral interview, the technical interview. And I also had to like reach out to those. Thank God for LinkedIn. I reached out to those that already like in working in that organization to like ask questions from them, like how were they able to like get the job there? Like, can you just give me like a pinpoint? And I also check some past interview questions online, how people were able to like get their first job, to kind of give me an idea on how to best prepare myself towards getting what I want in that field. So so that experience for me it was actually amazing. The main thing is like starting early, before you don't have to wait until you get there or you need that job before you start applying. You can start applying 6 months to 3 months. So as funny as it is, when I completed my when I knew that I was going to the United States for my master's degree program, and upon realizing that, I decided that I was almost applying from Nigeria for for the like the intern program and all of that, because I'm just someone that is so focused on being proactive and starting early. And when I came before, like 3 months into my stay, I already got 2 offers. Yes.
Mm,
So that's because you, like, I believe in starting early. Like, if you have that opportunity, just keep applying and keep pushing. And since you know what you want, you already know the field you're looking forward to. And the more you like get yourself into the space, the more you apply, the more you do interview, have conversation, you notice that you develop the skill sets to like to be able to answer questions, and to be able to like you already know the pattern of how to like communicate your response in the way the interviewer wants.
mm.
And also you'll be able to like get more guidelines on how to do better. So that's like the few story.
Yeah, yeah, that was really good. And I want to, first of all, let me shout out William real quick in the chat. Salute to you, William, as well. Thanks for always supporting. Um, but I think you touched on some really key things there that I just want to quickly go over again, right? The first being research, right? Like if you're trying to get into something, you always set your mind to understanding as much about it as possible. And I wanted to highlight that because, again, we've had some recurring themes in these conversations where that always comes up. So for anybody looking to break into tech, for anybody looking to get their first role, I think that is a very key thing that you want to apply in your journey. And I think the second part that you said was starting early. There's a saying about like, if you stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you know that you're going to need to get a job in 3 months and 6 months, why do you want to add 6 months extra? Why not start 6 months early so that by the time you actually need it, you get it? And I like the story that you shared about like you had not even started your master's program, but you had already started thinking about getting an internship in the master's program. I think that's really smart. And I think the last piece that I found also very useful was you talking about reaching out. There was something that happened at Afrotech last year where people were saying, "Oh, there's a lot of people who don't even work in tech who are showing up to Afrotech." And I said, those are the people who actually need to be at Afrotech, because if you don't work in tech, the closest proximity you're going to get to the people who work in tech are the events that the people who work in tech go to, right? So if you're really serious about, taking charge of your career, those are the places where you really want to be. So thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to highlight those three key points again. So what did you mentioned getting 2 offers when you eventually started your program? Talk me through the journey of how that came about.
uh my program, right? My master's program.
Yeah, so the 2 offers that you got, right? How did you get it? How was the application process like, the interviews,
Oh,
etc.?
okay, yeah. So I, as I said earlier, upon like getting, yeah, so I started applying. And one thing I realized that I know that I'll have to like build a strong resume with like my quantifiable achievement, that is what I've actually achieved so far before coming. Yeah, so and also I had to like do some practices that I had to do, like behavioral interview questions and technical question. And as I said earlier, I had to network on LinkedIn by reaching out to people, and like those that are already in the organization presently, to like ask questions on how, what are the opportunities, how were they able to get in. Few people gonna like respond, and those that won't respond, it's not it doesn't matter, but definitely people are those that are going to respond to you will definitely be ready to help you. So along the path, I actually applied to uh Amex, and I also applied to think PwC, a lot of company, Goldman, like top organization, because I wanted to go for something big, and I know that, yeah, this is where I want, and I will be able to like be able to go and also meet people in my career line. And where I was actually applying and putting in several application, although like there were rejections, like there were times you get rejection mails, but that shouldn't stop you. You keep applying. And when I did like my first interview, was with Amazon as a data engineer. Yeah, so I could remember vividly well because that was my first one. And after the interview, I got through the first stage. Then time for the second stage, but wow, I didn't make it through. And I was like, oh my god, like this is what what I would have wanted. But it's all good. It's a learning process, and this was my first. So that learning, that experience of like interviewing with the organization actually gave me like leverage to perform better and to know how to like also position myself, materials to actually look forward to learn, go on glass doors, to read old uh interviews that were done with other individuals that have passed through the stage. And I also had to like check LinkedIn, check several groups that I know that okay, we might be actually helpful to like get information from there. Yeah, so I keep applying, and as it sees, I had like option. I got two offers. Then the other ones were actually moved to the following year. I did not have to take the other offer because I think another organization was buying them over. So that was like I was like, oh, I'm not sure of the career of the organization if there will be any layoff as a result of the merger. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that was an awesome experience, and I'm happy I was able to like navigate and learn as a result of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like I'm trying to take care of my future. Y'all go figure out your future. But that's really smart. And again, I think there's so many things that I consider like the gold star of breaking into tech, right? And I think you're ticking every single one of them, right? So shout out to you, but first of all, by the way. But just again, reiterating some of those points, I think the key one is that practice. I think one of the things that a lot of people overlook is just how difficult, some of the things are. And maybe they're not even that difficult, but maybe there's a process to it. For example, like you not getting that opportunity while being so close, like in an interview, almost forces you to reflect on the areas where you might be lacking. Areas that if
Yeah.
you hadn't had that failure, right, you wouldn't have even figured that you needed that push, right? Or you needed to learn that, or you realized that you didn't. And because of those high stakes, it just changes everything, right? So again, thanks for sharing that because I think that's something that's useful for a lot of people to know about the process, right? You hear people online every day talk about, we're making six figures or this and that, but you don't really hear this little things that you have to do in between to really get yourself ready to be able to attract those kind of opportunities. So that's great. And shout out to Majid. He dropped the light bulb when you were sharing that. So I'm not the only one who likes it as well. So in taking that forward to like the actual interviews that you got, what were the things that you learned in the process of either applying or getting rejected in certain interviews that you felt that you applied in those ones that you did eventually get that helped you, convince the hiring team that you were the right person for the role?
Okay, I would say that is actually still specific to the kind of role and also streamlined to the kind of your interviewer, because I think the pattern for every interviewer differs. Some interviewers like it when you are the one leading, kind of you are the one like taking the center stage, talking the more. Why some are they like it when they actually ask you question and you kind of respond to them. So I think the pattern matters. Just try to like read the room, very essential. And also I had to like start like gaining more skills with lead code, start like doing more of lead code questions in order to like practice my technical skills. Because fine, you might be good in your normal SQL, you might be good in your normal Python, but sometimes the questions that are being asked, the data structures question, the algorithm kind of questions that are being asked might differ from what like you do day to day activity. But you know that when you get to the job, you're going to perform quite all right. But you need to like still be able to pass at that stage. So and you know that okay, these are where the questions are kind of like not really drawn from, but these are similar patterns that you also would like to like get yourself going for. So like lead codes are very good, and also like some SQL questions, Python, especially data structures. That's like
Mm,
some of the things that you have to learn and know. And also, I think apart from the pattern, I was able to uh, kind of read more about especially the values of the organization. Some values of the organization differs. They want to talk here when you're talking based on or streamlining your responses to their own values. So my value in organization A can be different from my value in organization B. So like you streamlining your answers or your responses towards your their own values actually give you more edge than someone else just saying something. Whatever you're saying, it's actually cool, but it might not be like structured towards their own value as an organization. So those are the key differences I kind of like take note of and was able to like do better the
mm,
next job.
mm. Another major key right there. That's another major key, right? Because ultimately, I think and I've encountered this in different companies, whether it's, Netflix or Amazon or all these other companies, like they have a specific set of values that they want you to be able to speak to. And it doesn't mean that your value changes from company to company. It just means that you can highlight, if a company says, we like doing things the right way or certain things, can you find examples in your star stories, right, that apply specifically to that? Because you might be saying something that is really nice, like you said, but if it doesn't apply to what they care about as their core value, you know, it probably won't land well. And some companies even go far. Like I know Amazon, for example, will make you take like some kind of like behavioral test before you even have your first interview because they want to see that alignment,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's definitely very key. So again, getting the fundamentals right, but understanding what each organization is looking for in terms of a culture fit from a candidate, so that you can try to align your responses as close to that. Yep. This is almost turning into like a masterclass of sorts, right?
Okay.
So yeah, quick PSA. Welcome to the stream. I hope you all are enjoying the conversation. Don't forget to like and share this, wherever you're watching. There's still a lot of value left in this stream. So hang around. And today we're talking about AI and data engineering. But if you're interested in any other role like product management, cybersecurity, DevOps, whatever it is that you're looking for, we've probably had a guest on the show who's talked about their career journey, breaking into tech from that perspective. So go look on the channel after the show's episodes, and I hope it helps you in your career transition journey. And today's guest is Esther. She's been blessing us with a lot of gems. If you're just joining, you've missed quite a bit, but of course you can always go back to watch it. But there's still a lot to come, so stay tuned. So, you've had the experience of working, having conversations, and interviewing across two different continents, right?
Yeah.
Both in Nigeria and the US. What are some of the things that are like, similar, in those two processes? And what are some of the things that are different? Just to give context to the guests who, maybe are only going to interview in the American context.
Okay, yeah. So I would say it's kind of like not so different because, as I said earlier, every organization you need to talk based on their values and what can I think of? Yeah. So I think most times it's actually kind of in sync. I don't really think there is like so much difference because it's kind of or less the pattern like stage one, stage two, depending on how the organization on the interview tend to go. But most times same like structure, like you have to learn your like the skill set has to be there. Every if you're going towards like data engineer, your technical skill set has to be there. Your behavioral interview has to be there, has to be good to go. And yeah, so from my own experience when it comes to like interviews in the United States and another state. Yeah, so to me, I feel like they are both kind of similar, and you still have to have the same skill sets that is required to be employable. So the more you, and just I would just say like find there, you just might just have more opportunities over here and be able to like learn more and be much more exposed. That's my like the difference for me.
So, it's interesting. I think in one of your previous responses, you had mentioned you kind of like touched on it a little bit, but I want to know if it's something that bothers you. A lot of times in interviews, you have to prepare a lot harder than the job is, right? And I
Yeah.
know that's frustrating for a lot of people. It's like, why are you stressing me out? But why is it important to kind of like not keep that view, right? Because, the better view is the one that you have. Is like, even though I know I may not need it or it might be too much, I'm still going to prepare because if I don't even make it to this stage, I'm not going to get to the easy part, quote unquote.
Yeah, so the thing is, we have a lot of people that has been interviewed, and they really want to take, they every organization has the quota or the number of employee they need to employ over a period of time, or the budget or something like that. So I feel at the end of the day, like there's so much, so I feel it's a way to kind of streamline people, because you find out that there are some people like they are so skilled, they're actually good, but they still do not get that job. And it's not
Hmm.
because they are not mentally okay up there or mentally good up there. They are very intellectual, they're very intelligent, and their skill set is actually okay. So I feel it's uh that's why it's kind of much more harder, the interview stages, and at times you can actually go through the first stage, second stage. And one thing I've come to realize also, that also I kind of like pulled some people out from interviewing stage, is maybe at the final stage you kind of like meet with your manager, or the team you would like to like that will want to onboard you. And at times they said first like when someone meets you, the first impression actually matters. So I think that first impression the manager have of you tells a lot, if he would like to have you on his team or not. So I feel at times you are good to go, and the manager don't just did not just detect that work relationship, like it doesn't feel like I might be able to like have the work relationship with this individual. That might also affect the candidate. But I feel
Hmm.
the interview being much hard is because they're trying to like streamline candidates to be able to like get the quota they're actually
Hmm.
looking forward to employing. So
Hmm.
just keep, definitely one thing I tell people is that don't give up, just keep applying, and whenever it's yours or when it's your time, you will definitely fall within a cut, like a pool, one way or the other. So that's pretty much it.
So, interestingly, one of the processes that I think about is like, you hear people say the star method, not processes, rather, like frameworks for interviewing. So you hear about the star method, you hear about, there's a few others out there. Which of those is like, do you use any of those in your interviews? And is there actually any truth to it, or is this something that works?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely works for me, because especially star technique, like you want to
Mm,
talk about the situation, your task, the action, and the result of whatever project that you actually work on. It's kind of like sum up everything you actually work on, rather than just saying the story. Nobody has time, or the long time interview process as like a interval of or period of time you want to get
mm,
interviewed. So nobody has enough time to be hearing a lot of your stories. So just want to tell me what happened, what was the task, what did you do, your action, and what was the outcome. So for me, I think that is very, very essential. I actually use that a lot, because that's actually one of, I think that has actually helped me for all the positions or the organization I've gotten into. It's one of the key technique I use as a person, or even if the organization tell you just see VP, whatever. I think some organization has another different one apart from the SaaS segment.
Specific structure, yeah.
So that actually worked for me because it's kind of sum up what they need to hear. And again, organization, especially the result, they want to know what was the like it has to be quantitative. That is, what was the count, like how many percentage of revenue, or as a result of all of this you did. There are a lot of projects that is being used. At times they dump it along the line in an organization, but what was yours able to generate into the organization? What was it able to do? Is it quantifiable? Which is very, very essential. So those are very, very like very important to note when
Mm,
you actually having your interview.
mm, mm. So, um, in kind of like addition to that, how do you, one of the things that I personally struggle with, right, is being able to understand how an interview goes, right? I think many people struggle with that. Like, yeah, we're gonna hear back, da, 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 but then at the end of the day, you don't really know till you get that email. But one is there a way to gauge for it? And one of the things that I think you talked about was like it being a numbers game. Or do you not just worry about it at all? Just go about your day, wait till seeing if you hear back or not.
Oh, okay. So, for me personally, I would say whenever I have an interview and the HR or reached out to me, let me just use, okay, for example, I'm having a data engineer interview. You should also know your role. You're having a data engineer, you know that definitely there is a technical interview that is going to follow, and there is a behavioral session that is definitely going to be there. They want to know your skill set, if it matches their value, as I said, and also the technical text, your technical ability, and then maybe meet with the manager of the team to be able to know, okay, can I work with this person? From the conversation, we'll be able to dictate, okay, if this person will be fit for my team or not. So I feel like if you are able to, you can, if the HR doesn't even specify, you can go ahead and ask. One thing I've also come to realize is that if you getting a no as a response, or it's not, it won't hurt you actually. It's not gonna hurt you. Just give it a try. You can just send a message or a mail to the HR or person like, oh, I'd just like to know, are there any key points or anything I need to note for my upcoming interviews? Actually, it's good to ask questions, especially when you know about the role, but you are not so sure of the description that is that's like they're expecting from you in the whatever role that you're applying for. So this is very, very crucial. And also check the job description. The JD is very important before going into an interview. Because fine, another thing I realized in US, I think I did not specify it. We might have a lot of groups bearing the same name. Like, yeah, in this role, like, okay, I'm a data engineer on so team, and you find out that the data engineer, what I'm doing here is kind of different, or the tool they are using is different from the same organization, from the data engineer in another team or another group within the same organization. So you want to find out or get to know what exactly are like the JD, what is the tools that you want to speak in line with, if you have any. Yeah, so that would also be helpful to know as someone that is going into an interview. And then that will actually groom you, and you can there's no harm in asking. And again, just like get yourself ready. You can go on Glassdoor, like there's some people like that's like a website where they post like you get to see interview those that have like maybe they were interviewed, even if they didn't get it, like they wrote it, they accepted or not. You get to like read some of the questions that was asked. You also get yourself prepared. You study broadly, and at times you can either decide to ask the HR. Sometimes they give you like some not really direct key points, but just like some area of specialization, maybe okay, data structure, database storage, or something that you want to like prepare yourself for in that line. Yeah, at times interviewers don't expect you to know everything 100%, fine, but the confidence, how you deliver, and how you are able to put what you know out there also helps and matters a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, have a lot of confidence, try to get as much information from the recruiters as much as possible, and then portray confidence. Yeah, important. So taking it back to one of the things like you said about like, I think you talked about like reaching out on LinkedIn, people may not respond and things like that. And then you gave other examples. Having mentorship or having people that can give you insight is very key in this journey. And I think you've kind of like had a bit of help in that process. For someone who doesn't know anybody in tech or doesn't know anybody in the space, how can they build up that muscle to find people who are willing to help them?
Okay. So for me, I would say start within your circle. And one thing I've come to realize is that people actually do not appreciate the value of some of the friends they have within their circle. You just because you see someone day to day does not mean this person cannot actually help you or cannot give you that information that you need. So I think what the individual or whoever does not have someone in tech has to do is like ask questions, which is very, very vital. Like just ask maybe your friends or something, just like, oh, I want to start this, I want to like go into this, I want to apply for this, do you know anyone? And that one person might actually know someone else that might be helpful. And also another way that that individual can actually go is look for a conference. You can just go, thank God, like we're in the tech world, things are kind of easy. Just go online, just check for any conferences that you can kind of see or something in related to your field or the role you are actually looking forward to going into. Then when you search online, you'll be able to see upcoming conferences around your area or wherever you find yourself. And going there, you can actually network and meet people also. Like, okay, I'm in this, I'm Esther, I'm in a data engineer. I'm looking forward to like, okay, expanding my skill set. I'm looking forward to like applying to this organization. Do you have any information for me? You can never tell what the person might be able to give, even give you a referral as a result of that. So networking is very essential. And you can actually just go to LinkedIn and just put a company name, a name of the company you actually look forward to working in. Then there are ways you can streamline to the people section where you kind of see people and you can kind of like look out for their profile. If you actually intend going or achieving something in life, you definitely create the time for it and you put in the effort to achieve that. So I feel you definitely creating the time for it and putting that effort to look for someone in that field will definitely get you what you want. And even as I said earlier, for those that might not respond to you, definitely you that doesn't give you the uh that doesn't make you want to like go back or stop pushing or something. Just keep like reaching out, keep telling people, and one day definitely someone's gonna get you to the path. And also, when it comes to mentorship, it's very, very essential. You might not like okay, you might not have the mentorship up there like all these top guys in the data sector. Because I was talking to my mentorship recently about career goals. The person does not even really need to be in your own field exactly. Fine, it's good to have someone in your field as a mentor, but if you like uh find yourself not having someone in that space you want to, the person that you have as a mentor, like you decide to pick in another space, like another field, maybe not a data engineer field, can actually still help you navigate your career towards where you want to be. So I feel at the end of the day, it depends on how your relationship, your conversations, and how you actually see the person and what you want to take from the person. And that person can actually still refer you or be the one to even be the link between that individual that is top there that you want to reach and you don't have the access to reach. Yeah, so don't overlook every any I'll just say don't overlook any one that is kind of a bit superior, irrespective of the level. And
Mm.
some people want to look for mentor, and that is that is far beyond, yeah, but of which they might not be able to easily get access to. But just start from where you are and try to like build mentorship with people around you, and that way you'll be able to get to wherever you want to get to.
No, I think like you're dropping so many gems. People in the chat, please drop some emojis. She's Esther is completely like blowing it out of the water. You drop, and I say that because like so many of the things that you say are so practical, but and so like even basic, but it's funny like how many people miss it, right? Well, and when I say basic, it's like you would expect everybody to know it or this would be best practice, but it's not, right? Like for example, you talk about starting mentorship within your own circle. We ran a free program maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, helping to train people in the skills they needed to get into tech. When we collected the data, from the signups to ask, how did you find about this program? There were teachers, for example, who said one of their students' moms was the one who came to school and told her, like, hey, there's this program that's free. Do you want to try it out? Or there were cases where, people were in sororities and somebody who had found that advertisement about this program came into their sorority and dropped the link. So a lot of people were coming from third degree connections, not necessarily the people that we told about the program, but the people who told the people we told about the program. So just your point is like, even when you share your passion within your network, they may not necessarily be able to, they may not have the opportunities to help you, but they're able to provide that connection once they see an opportunity or know someone else. Because if you think about it this way, let's say I know 200 people. I may not know any data engineers, but if I tell five of my friends, they may also know 200 people. And within that circle, there might be a data engineer. And it's way easier to build a connection with somebody that my friend already has a connection with than building it on my own accord. So in addition to all of these things that you shared, right? What do you think about peer mentorship? Like, is it possible that somebody who's on the same level of you trying to break into tech, could they even help you?
Yeah, it is possible. I feel like most people kind of like overlook peer to peer mentorship a lot because well, I think, let me just say, uh, I categorically might not have told her that she's my mentor at that point, but I really like I built a lot from her. She's like a colleague of mine. She's also a data engineer at that point. So like if I have any issue, maybe when I'm like stuck with like why I'm learning or trying to like work on any project or something, I always like call her, reach out to her, like ask questions. What are the like tools I need to like have, all those stuff. So like at that point, she might like, okay, she's just helping me out or something. But that's like a peer-to-peer mentorship in my own field,
Mm,
because
mm,
she's like a go-to person in when it comes to anything data engineer at the
mm,
moment. So utilizing someone like that or utilizing peer-to-peer mentorship is actually so important. Because okay,
mm,
I even thinking of like starting, okay, let's say mentorship now, like or datatech.com or something like that. Yeah, where I'll like also be able to like mentor those that are just coming into data engineer and be able to at least give back, or irrespective of the level of where they
mm.
find themselves. So to me, peer mentorship is actually very essential, and it's so helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is so great. We usually do shout outs at the end. So I really want to give you the time to really shout out this program because I think you've shared a lot of value and gem on this that I think anybody who actually plugs into that is going to benefit really well. So, we've been talking about, this whole AI and data engineering space, analytics engineer space that you work in. And for anybody who's just joining, this is Esther. This is Working in Tech. If you somehow stumbled on this, we bring professionals in the tech industry to talk about many different roles. And today we're talking to Esther. But for anyone who doesn't know what that role does, right? Imagine I'm like a 5-year-old. Explain this to me like I'm five, right? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so as you know, like data engineer has to do with like pipeline ETL. So currently we're
I'm a 5-year-old. I'm not gonna know that. I'm just
okay. How am I gonna like oh, okay, okay, let me just say like data, migrating data, like ensuring that it's smoothly past. I don't know, which like 5 years.
No, I don't want to stress you too much. Explain it the best way that you can.
Okay, so I'll just say like more of like data migration, like building ETL and trying to like migrate from like on-prem to cloud currently, and yeah, so like building pipelines and such that we're migrating data and putting that into cloud like using AWS, and yeah, so that's like my day to day, and also like handle meetings that had to do with like stakeholders, and also like kind of like talk about the data structures, data architecture, how we want to like where do we see ourselves a few years from now, and what are the best tool or integration and the database storage that needs to be used to be able to achieve the data quality and um, let's say be able to like have fast traction. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's kind of like what I do day to day for now.
Yeah. So and I will do the 5-year-old translation of that. Right. So to simplify, one of the things that she's talking about, every company that you can think of, whether they're in the banking industry, gaming, wherever you may think about it, data powers everything that they do. So if we take like even like, whether you play 2K online, for example, first of all of that thing that you're playing is data, right? Images, player names, commentary, everything that comes in that's a data. That's data coming from the company. But there's also your data, right? Like how many hours are you logged on playing? How many points do you have? Every single thing that you do within that space is big data, and like you're streaming it over the internet typically. So companies oftentimes have to figure out where are we going to keep all this data. I think that's what you're talking about, like migrating from on-prem to the cloud, which means that before we had this whole cloud revolution, companies had to build their own data centers and servers where they're keeping all of this data to help them achieve this goal of helping you play your video games online, right? And now that whole process is changing to where we now have the cloud is making the process faster. Some people say it's cheaper, but I don't necessarily agree. But again, we can agree to disagree. So, Esther and her team are figuring out how to help companies make this change. And I know it sounds simple, right? Like just take the data and move it from here to there. But it's a whole lot more complex. And that's where she's talking about. She's talking to other really smart people like her to figure out, how do we move this data? What do we do in this space, et cetera? And then that's how that whole strategy comes together. And they also have to design it, right? Like what data sits where, which services is making what happen, et cetera. So um, I don't know if a 5-year-old will also understand my explanation, but
Right,
I just try to break it down a little bit better. But yeah, that and if one of the things that I actually said, which is true before this show, was that um, data has been the past. Even before data became this ubiquitous talked about thing in the longest time, data has always been important, right?
yeah,
As somebody who works in the financial sector, I only got appreciation for data when I started to learn about the history, right? Because think about it. If you had a credit card before like data was so ubiquitous, people would have to maybe make a ledger, send that information, and then you'll be able to, because how do you tell who has what, right? If I say I have a credit limit of $10,000, how do they know? They have to be able to access that information somewhere to be able to give me that value or make that decision. And the faster companies have been able to do that, so maybe going from mainframe systems and all of that to the cloud, the faster that is happening, the faster like we can all get services like done and things like that. And it's really very fascinating. So I think that this is a space that anybody should care about, even if you're not going to be, an AI and data analytics engineer like Esther is, because data is such a huge part of how everything works. Like it's so important to everything. That's why typically I'd recommend that everybody should get a foundational certification in something like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. Any of them is fine. Even if you don't get a certification, if you just go through the knowledge part and just learn what it is, because I think it will make a lot of the things that we're talking about here make a lot more sense. And like you could always find ways to relate to it, whether like you're a UI UX designer or a project manager, a product manager, whatever it is that the role that you are doing, it makes it helpful. Sorry, I think you were going to say something.
let me add to that. I think the data engineer space is actually in high demand. I think I was with was this teacher on report like that recently. He was talking about like how we have like over 31,000 like data engineer vacancies that is currently uh open in I think 2025. Then when you now look at every organization, about 31% in all of these like organization that has over 10,000 employees actually are like data engineer roles. Then imagine those that are like more than that, like maybe less employee, having to like employ those in data engineers, like having so much percentage of those data engineer they want to bring in into the organization. That shows that there's so much space for that. And one thing I want to tell people is that some people like, oh, AI is coming to take up your job. That one is no way, because the data engineer actually so crucial and so vital, especially in the world today. Even if you don't want to like end up like you don't want to like stay on being a data engineer, now people are evolving towards AI engineer. So, but you need this bedrock, you need this foundation to be able to like get there. Of which are the way the word is, you are needed. Actually, that's so. Get on the board.
She just made a really strong pitch for becoming a data engineer, and I love it. It's so interesting. Like you're probably like the third person who's kind of like saying that I know personally. One of the guests on this show has actually been trying to like talk me into becoming a data engineer. That's how you know that's how interesting it is. And because ultimately, like if you don't have data, you don't have AI, right? Like none
Yeah.
of that works if data as a foundational skill doesn't exist. And like for how good like these models will become, they still need to be built. They still need to be managed, right? AI hallucinates all the time, right? So you need people kind of like you need controls. And I started a new show called Ask About Tech, where I just talk about like all of the happenings in the tech industry because it's important, right? Like you can go learn to be. Shout out to any Scrum masters, but like I don't think Scrum is like that hot anymore as it was like a couple of years ago.
I think every role is.
You think Scrum Master is hot right now?
Not so, but it's still very also essential in.
Yeah, yeah. No, because one of the things that I've realized is that like you're seeing a lot more of those Scrum roles kind of like built into like program management and project management and
Yeah.
product management. So you're not seeing it like in those specific, or maybe unless I'm mistaken. But I think the overall point is more to say there's going to be a lot of evolution, right? So a lot of roles will be consolidated. One of the things I've heard, for example, is like even traditional data analysts, right? Yeah, they're having to upskill into like some data engineering, become a bit more technical. Even on the product side, right? Product managers are getting more technical. You either like security or AI or data, like, but it's hard to just be like a vanilla product manager, right? It doesn't work that way anymore. So again, there's always going to be opportunity, but you kind of like have to prepare. So yeah, that's a good call out. But coming back to like the skill sets, right? So let's say I'm sold. Okay, I want to become a data engineer, like Esther just said I have to be, right? What is it that I have to do? Give me like a 6-month roadmap, right? I don't know anything about data today. I'm a 5-year-old, right? And in 6 months, I want to get to where Esther is. Maybe not quite, but at least get ready to be able to talk to someone who's gonna say, let's give him a job. What do I have to do in that 6 months?
Okay, so within the 6 months, you want to upskill yourself, like upskilling in such a way that you want to like you can decide to like okay, I would say you want to start with data visualization. It's actually so essential. Why I mentioned data visualization is in the space of you learning data visualization, you're also going to be learning SQL, such that now be able to like do like some data transformation. So as a result of you learning, doing some data transformation, now you're already now understanding how the data works, how it is being pulled in into the visuals and all of that. So having that bedrock alone kind of like expose you towards before you now want to like go into like database storage and getting to understand the data warehouse much more better. Yeah, so you can actually take some courses. Like we have some courses online that you can take. You can go to Udemy, you can do Coursera. Like we have several SQL courses. The one, and even if you want to also like learn, will I say Python now? You can actually do. We have like Python for data engineer. Yeah, you can actually just enroll on that to like learn and be able to like get yourself upskill, learn programming, and then also like master data warehousing and some ETL concepts, which is very, very essential. So for a start, I would say you're start with like learning more of like data visualization gives you like bedrock, like makes you get to understand like little things. So understanding, then having an idea about like SQL for maybe data engineer or data science on Coursera can actually help you to be able to like build up that SQL skill. Then from there you can move on to learning Python, which is very also essential. And then data warehousing, and what else? Then as time goes on, you kind of like learning and also looking out to get hands-on skill with some cloud platform like AWS, depending on what, like Azure, then Google BigQuery or Google Cloud. So depending on like where you want to be or the kind of tool you want to learn. But firstly, start small, starts like taking some courses online, very essential, or you can register depending on whichever cost effective for you as an individual. So
Mm,
that's what I can advise for in part
mm,
for like beginners.
okay. Um, so I know that we're coming up on time. I don't know if we have any question like specifically in the chat, but if we don't, I'm gonna double click on these two things. One of it is, um, so in terms of the scale, just help me validate if I got it correctly. When you say visualization, is it just SQL you use for visualization, or are there other tools?
So you can, okay, that's Excel. But why mentioned SQL is that SQL is actually very essential, and because you have to like integrate that with your database. So as a data engineer, it's very, very essential you know that. So that's why
Mm,
I really emphasize on that. They are also
mm.
like depending on where your data is feeding from, that will determine what is coming into your data visualization. That's like maybe Power BI, you want to use Tableau or something like that.
And are there specific courses that you found to be very like useful specifically, or like, there's just so many good ones out there that if they look, they will be able to find? Or is there like a strategy to even find the one that's maybe easy to understand?
Hmm. I would say you can go on Cargo, like, and you can look at other people's
What
work.
is cargo?
Cargo is like a site where we have like public data sets where you can
Oh, okay.
get a data set for your projects or whatever you want to work on. So that way you can use that to like learn or do some personal learning at your own pace to build up your skill sets. Then on Coursera, I think there's a course, I think Google Cloud Data Engineering course you can actually go ahead to like do. That way
Mm,
you get to understand some data engineering and mix with some cloud topics that will be so helpful to you. And yeah, so I think on Udemy they also have, I think, data engineering, is it bootcamp they call it? Yeah, data engineering bootcamp. That would also be helpful. Uh yeah.
okay. So this is one that everybody's always interested in. How much can someone make as an AI and data analytics engineer?
You can Google it. Yeah, so I think as you go up the ladder, you can actually make so much. But
Uh,
I would say for a data engineer, like depends on the range. You know, we have entry level, we have mid level, we have senior level. So it depends on the range and as you go up the ladder. But I think one time I did a report like from 20, let's say in 2027 or 20 few years from now, people will be earning much more as 170 to like that's upward as a
uh,
engineer, irrespective of
data engineer.
yeah, you're starting with.
Mm.
Yeah, so but for now, I'll say about let me just bedrock about 100 upward. That way you will be able to.
So yeah, here it is, cargo.com. If you guys are looking for data, that's a really good source to find it. But we're at time, and I definitely want to be respectful of your time and everybody who joined. But I do want to give you, 1 minute to shout out, your program or anything else that you do want to shout out today.
Mm. Okay, shout out to everyone and shout out to your team for having me on here, and also
Uh,
my team, and also for those that I'm mentoring very soon on datatech.com. Yeah, so shout out to everyone that listening to me, and I hope you are able to learn something and you're able to build up your career from on here. Thank you.
so what's the information about datatech.com? What is it about? Where can people find it? Is it live or is it something that's coming?
Yeah, so it's just about to be launched, but it's already coming. Yeah, so that's the website you just got. That is the website. So
S-
like you can just go on there, like get mentorship to like to meet with any mentor you want, or you're looking forward to based on what you want to learn from.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's the show for tonight. Thanks so much for everyone who joined tonight. We This has been the show Working in Tech. Go check out my latest episode of Ask About Tech as well, which is another series that I just launched where I talk about all of the things that's going on in the tech industry. This week I was talking about Mark Zuckerberg getting leaked, in a meeting where he was complaining about getting leaked. We also talk about Intel's $2.2 billion federal grant and that what that might mean for you if you're looking for a job, in the uh, chips and data center space, and also news about Apple's sales report for the year. They had their highest earnings ever, even though like their iPhone sales is down. So all of that and many more exciting stuff I talk about in my latest series, Ask About Tech. That has been the show tonight. Next week, I have another exciting guest who's a content creator, who's a software engineer, and we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff on how you can get your feet wet, in the tech industry. This is also actually the first ever time that we're having a student on the show. And if you guys join next week, you're going to find out, what's so special about it and what we'll be sharing. But for now, that's been the show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining. Shout out to Esther for sharing everything about this space. It's been a really enjoyable conversation. And we'll see you on another episode of Working in Tech live stream and podcast next week. Stay blessed.
Thank you.